So in my line of work, I encounter all the time women that are not aware of the deep mistrust they have towards men. In order for this to fully understand, we have to go back in time. For thousands of years, women have been dominated by men. And I'm not saying at all, that men had an amazing time, but the simple fact was that men had a lot of power over women. What that means is that many women made this experience that men are not to be trusted, that they don't have their best interest at heart, and in order to survive in this world in a physical as well as social way, you need to guard your heart and you cannot trust men at all. The thing how society works and we as a social species is that when a culture like this exists for many years, it gets deep, not just into our subconscious, but even physically into our genes. The science here is still very new, but more and more we can prove that we actually inherit ancestral traumas. Really good examples are here that children whose parents and even grandparents have been at wars, for example, have PTSD when they hear gunshot wounds. So as I said, the research is still really new, but more and more we can prove that we inherit trauma from previous generations. In my experience, when I work with women, I feel very often, even if a woman herself has not experienced extreme domination or abuse or violence from men, that most of us have the deep mistrust within us, and that in relationships we constantly play power games with men because we are terrified of losing our power because of those deep wounds from the past. Additionally, of course, many of us have soft traumas around men. For example, in my case, I felt that my dad was very much emotionally unavailable, and so it did not feel very safe around him. So the reason why this is so important to understand is because men and women, because men actually have the same thing, they also have deep traumas around women, around manipulation, around being dominated by mothers, but that's a topic for another video, just to tell you that it's not just that women have trauma around men, it's also the other way around. But let's stick with women. So the reason why this is so important is because if you want to create a truly happy, satisfied relationship, you need to create deep trust with each other. Because how the feminine and the masculine flow and harmonize most beautifully together is actually that the man is leading the relationship and the woman is very receptive and responsive. And actually when we are in our healed state, we enjoy that leadership from men. But of course, as you can imagine, if it's in your body, in your genes, that men are not to be trusted, it's very difficult to trust and to open yourself up to leadership from a man because it feels unsafe. I can even imagine as I'm speaking this that many women will have this immediate reaction when I even say things like a man can be the leader. They're like, oh no, I don't want that. And of course, often people think it comes from, kind of conditioning around women should be strong and women should be self-sufficient, but I think even the root there, of this whole mindset that women should be independent and the women can do the same things as men, all that stuff, comes from this deep fear of being controlled and dominated by a man that doesn't have your best interest at heart. So what it takes to create this deep trust in your relationship is to do ancestral healing, where you are doing trauma work that actually removes those deep-seated fears. Of course, for this, it's really important that in the present now, you are in a situation that you are around men that actually don't hurt you actively, obviously, right? Because otherwise, what I'm sharing here is not that you should be, satisfied with an abusive situation. Of course not. But what I mean is that, for example, in my case, I have an amazing man in my life. My husband is absolutely such a open-hearted, wise man, and I want to accept and appraise and appreciate his beautiful leadership that he wants to provide for me. But yeah, I find it very difficult because of this deep-seated fear of being controlled by a bad man, essentially. So how ancestral healing works is that, first of all, you understand what is your family's history. So for example, in my case, my grandmother, for example, she basically got pregnant with like 18, and she was almost at the danger of being a single mother, but then my grandfather decided to marry her, luckily. So she was saved from this fate, of essentially maybe being ostracized from the society and be labeled as a bad woman. And the way they had relationship was always that my grandmother was quite controlling, was quite domineering, and my grandfather, like, at times drank a lot. They had like vicious fights. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of trauma, relationship trauma in my family. My parents, a little bit of a similar situation, just a lot of chaos, a lot of conflicts as well. And what I know from the generations before, also on my dad's side, is the same exact story. The parents, quite a turbulent. My grandmother was quite depressed, so quite a cold relationship. And what I know from both sides, from the generations before, was that they just had very cold and very disconnected relationships. And the women often had to pick up the pieces because men were traumatized through being in the war and drinking a lot. And of course, for the men it was also equally horrible because, as you can imagine, a really expensive war is terrible. So knowing this helps me understand why I have those feelings, and helps me have compassion with myself. And it also helps me to understand both sides. Both my grandmothers and grandfathers were suffering deeply, and both are to blame for the problems. Same for my parents. This helps me to integrate all of this and understand that it's not the case that men are bad and women are good, but that we are all equally contributing. And then as a second step, I've done a lot of inner child healing, where I become aware of my more vulnerable, raw emotions around this topic, to help me heal those. Because essentially, many women experience a lot of anger towards men, but underneath this anger is a deep, deep, deep hurt and a deep fear. And those are the emotions that need to be addressed, the fear and the hurt, because they are the vulnerable emotions. So I encourage you, if you want to create a trust-filled, beautiful relationship with men, start addressing these topics. And this will have an even deeper impact than you. It will spread out to so many people around you, because other women will get inspired. You children will have a very different experience of male-female relationship, and it's really right now what we need to do to create a better, more beautiful, more connected, more harmonious society for the generations to come. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want to find out why your relationship is disconnected, why you feel disconnected to him, click the link below. I've created an amazing quiz where just in 5 questions you can find out the root causes of your relationship issue. There's also a free mini video training to help you. All the best. Bye bye.